My name is Oliver, and this is a story I never thought I'd have to tell. My wife, Lisa, and I were what many would consider the perfect couple. We had been married for 7 wonderful years, filled with love, laughter, and dreams for the future. Our cozy house in the suburbs felt like the ideal setting for our lives, and everything seemed just right. But then Lisa decided to join a local gym, pursuing a healthier and more active lifestyle. I fully supported her decision, believing it would bring us even closer together and enhance our lives. At first, everything was fantastic. Lisa was happier and more energized than I had ever seen her. I was incredibly proud of her achievements at the gym. She would come home beaming after a great workout or a fun fitness class. Our evenings were filled with her excitement as she shared stories about new friendships she was forming and the challenges she was overcoming in her fitness journey. It felt like we were on the brink of something amazing together. However, as the months went by, I began to notice subtle changes that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Lisa started spending more and more time at the gym, often justifying her extended hours by mentioning extra classes or special training sessions. Her workout clothes became trendier, and she paid more attention to her appearance before leaving the house. It was a little strange, but I brushed it off. I thought she was just getting into the spirit of her new fitness journey. Occasionally, she would mention dinners with her friends after gym sessions, and while I believed her, an uncomfortable knot began to form in my chest. I tried to convince myself that it was just jealousy or insecurity on my part. After all, Lisa had never given me any reason to doubt her fidelity. Yet, as time wore on, those small signs of change became impossible to ignore. She started spending more time on her phone, often laughing at messages that she didn't share with me. Whenever I asked her about her day, she became evasive, giving vague responses that left me feeling unsettled. The intimacy we once shared began to wane, and I felt more like a stranger in my own home. The looks she exchanged with people I didn't know, the shift in her habits, and those long conversations weighed heavily on my mind. The trust I had in Lisa started to falter, and the need to understand what was happening became an obsession. That's when I decided I needed to investigate further. Was my mind playing tricks on me, or was there really something wrong? I trusted Lisa implicitly, yet a nagging voice in the back of my mind urged me to act. With distrust taking root in my heart, I began to pay closer attention to the details. I noticed the different perfume lingering on Lisa's neck, a scent I didn't recognize. I saw the new sparkle in her eyes when she talked about the gym, and that smile of hers that seemed to hold secrets. Every gesture, every word became a subject of scrutiny. I needed to know more about these so-called gym friends. Trying to keep my composure, I casually asked Lisa about them, but she was often elusive. There was one name that kept coming up, Tom. He was a sparring partner, she said, just a friend. But whenever she mentioned him, her face lit up in a way that made my stomach churn. Gradually, my suspicions turned into a festering wound. I spent sleepless nights replaying every conversation, every glance exchanged between them that I had witnessed. The puzzle pieces began to fall into place, but I was reluctant to accept the reality of what I was seeing. One night, after a particularly tense dinner where Lisa seemed distant and preoccupied, I found myself staring out the window into the darkness, wrestling with the emotions swirling inside me. Was I just imagining things? Or was I really losing the woman I had devoted my life to? I wanted to trust her, but the evidence, however circumstantial, was mounting. In my desperation for answers, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I began discreetly following her after she told me she was heading to the gym. It was a decision that weighed heavily on my conscience, but the gnawing feeling in my gut pushed me forward. I needed to know if my fears were justified or if I was simply being paranoid. One fateful afternoon, I parked my car a few blocks away from the gym and waited. My heart raced as I watched the entrance, feeling like a character in a spy movie. As time ticked by, I saw Lisa arrive, her bright smile beaming as she stepped inside. I told myself I was being ridiculous, that I was just being a worried husband. But then, after what felt like an eternity, I saw her walk out with Tom. They were laughing together, the kind of laughter that made my chest tighten. I couldn't hear their conversation, but the way they leaned into each other made my stomach drop. My heart felt like it was being crushed under the weight of betrayal. I gripped the steering wheel, fighting the urge to confront them right then and there. I had trusted Lisa with everything, and yet here I was, watching the woman I loved share moments with another man, moments that felt intimate, personal. The truth I had feared was unfolding right before my eyes. As they walked away, my world felt like it was shattering, piece by piece. I drove home in a daze, replaying the scene in my mind. I had to confront Lisa. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. That evening, when she returned, I was waiting for her in the living room, my heart pounding. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief coursing through me. "Lisa," I started, my voice trembling, "we need to talk." Her eyes widened, and I could see a flicker of apprehension cross her face. I knew then that I had crossed into a territory that would change everything, but I couldn't hold back any longer. The truth needed to come out, no matter the cost. I found myself slipping deeper into a web of suspicion, and it all started with Lisa's cell phone. Every time she left the room, an insatiable curiosity drove me to check her messages, hoping for a glimpse of reassurance. Each harmless message I read provided a fleeting sense of relief, but the nagging unease never truly left me. I felt small, invasive, as though I were treading on sacred ground. Yet, the burning need to uncover the truth consumed me, a relentless fire igniting my every thought. It reached a boiling point when I decided to follow Lisa one evening while she went out to dinner with her gym friends. I parked at a distance, my heart racing as I watched her walk into a restaurant. She looked stunning, wearing a dress that accentuated her curves in a way I hadn't seen in months. My stomach twisted in knots as I noticed Tom, a familiar face, grinning as he welcomed her with open arms. The sight of them together sent a jolt of realization through me, and I felt like the ground had opened up beneath my feet. For hours, I remained a silent observer, my heart pounding in my chest. I watched them laugh, their bodies leaning into one another as they shared whispered secrets and playful touches that hinted at a bond far deeper than friendship. Each smile exchanged felt like a dagger piercing my heart. The suspicions I had nurtured in the dark corners of my mind were now laid bare, and yet I craved more evidence. It wasn't enough to feel the sting of betrayal, I needed irrefutable proof to shatter the illusion of our life together. The pain I experienced was overwhelming, but the determination to uncover the complete truth was even stronger. I resolved to dig deeper into the rabbit hole of this nightmare. The investigation had only just begun, and I steeled myself for the painful revelations and shocking surprises that awaited me. The first step was hiring a private detective. I met with him in a dimly lit cafe, my heart racing as I explained my situation. His calm demeanor offered me a sliver of hope as he promised discretion and professionalism. He had seen cases like mine before and assured me he would get to the bottom of things. As I left the cafe, a mix of anxiety and anticipation surged within me, knowing that the weeks ahead would be fraught with torment. Those weeks turned into a relentless blur of anxiety and despair. Each update from the detective felt like a nail driven deeper into my heart. He brought me photographs of Lisa and Tom together, snapshots of them laughing and sharing intimate moments in various locations. I found myself lost between reality and imagination, piecing together the moments they had shared while the pain twisted like a knife in my gut. My mind raced with thoughts of what they were doing, what they were saying, and how easily she seemed to slip into this new life without me. One particularly agonizing update included messages exchanged between them, words that felt like a betrayal of everything we had built together. I got lost in the chaos of my thoughts, replaying those messages over and over in my mind, trying to decipher what they meant. The love I had for Lisa, once a beacon of light in my life, began to drown in a rising tide of betrayal. The detective eventually delivered the final blow, He had recorded a conversation between Lisa and Tom. The sound of her sweet, familiar voice declaring her love for another man shattered my already fractured heart. The casual intimacy in her tone felt like a knife to my chest, leaving me gasping for breath. I was devastated, lost in a whirlwind of anger and sadness that threatened to consume me. The confrontation loomed over me like a dark cloud, heavy with uncertainty. How could I talk to her about everything I had discovered without losing myself entirely? As the days passed, a new emotion began to take root within me, an insatiable thirst for justice, a cold and calculated desire for revenge. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about reclaiming my dignity and exposing the truth. My research into Tom revealed even more unsettling truths about him. He was married too, and his wife, Sarah, appeared to be a loving and devoted woman, completely oblivious to the treachery unfolding right under her nose. The realization that another innocent person was being drawn into this chaos only fueled my determination. I spent sleepless nights imagining the confrontation that awaited me. I envisioned Lisa's face as I laid bare the evidence of her infidelity, her shocked expression turning to defensiveness, and then perhaps to regret. I felt a surge of anger at the thought of her denying everything, attempting to twist the narrative in her favor. My heart raced at the prospect of finally confronting Tom, the man who had wormed his way into our lives, and revealing his betrayal to Sarah. The stage was set, and I was ready to take control of my own narrative, no matter the cost. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. I called Lisa, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "We need to talk," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. I could sense the confusion in her voice, but I didn't give her a chance to respond. I made my way home, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I paced the living room, anticipation and dread mingling in my gut. When Lisa walked through the door, I could see that she was caught off guard. Her smile faded as she took in the tense atmosphere. "What's wrong?" she asked, her brow furrowing with concern. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "I know about Tom," I said, my voice steady. "I know everything." Her face went pale, and for a moment, the world around us faded away. The room felt charged with a weight that pressed down on us both. The truth hung in the air like a thick fog, obscuring everything else. As I watched her process the revelation, I knew that the battle lines had been drawn. There was no turning back now. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment where the truth would be laid bare, and I would reclaim my life from the wreckage of our shared past. As I sat there, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for Sarah. I could only imagine the shock that awaited her once she learned the truth. With newfound determination, I reached out to her. Finding the right words was tough, but I knew I had to be honest. We arranged to meet at a cozy cafe, a place far from prying eyes, where I could lay out the evidence. When I finally told Sarah, the look on her face was one of sheer disbelief, quickly followed by deep sadness. She stared at the photos and messages I had gathered, each one a painful reminder of the betrayal. "How could he do this?" she muttered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I trusted him. I loved him." "Sarah, I know how you feel," I said, my voice heavy with compassion. "But we need to do something about it. We can't just let them get away with this." As my words sank in, I saw the flame of anger spark in her eyes. She wiped away her tears, her expression shifting to one of fierce determination. "You're right, Oliver. They need to pay for what they've done." And so began our unlikely alliance, forged by a shared sense of betrayal. Sarah and I met regularly, exchanging information and meticulously plotting our revenge. We both agreed that our retaliation should be public, something that would humiliate Tom and Lisa and expose their true nature for everyone to see. We decided that the perfect place for our confrontation would be the academy, where it had all begun, a setting filled with witnesses, from students to instructors and administration. With our evidence in hand, photos and incriminating text messages, we made our way to the gym during a busy time, adrenaline coursing through our veins. My heart pounded with a mix of anger and nervousness as I scanned the room. There they were, Tom and Lisa, laughing and chatting as if nothing was amiss. Seeing them together ignited a fury within me. "Tom! Lisa!" I shouted, my voice echoing through the gym, drawing the attention of everyone around. The surprise quickly morphed into horror as they registered what was happening. I stepped forward, Sarah right beside me. "I have something to show everyone here," I announced, my voice firm. Tom tried to speak, but I cut him off, pulling out the pictures and reading some of the damning text messages aloud. "This is the true face of Tom and Lisa," I declared. "A brazen and despicable betrayal." The gym fell silent, every eye wide in shock, faces pale. Tom advanced toward me, fury etched across his features. "You had no right to do this here," he yelled, shoving me. Without thinking, I pushed him back, and chaos erupted around us. Students and instructors screamed, trying to separate us as the tension escalated. Sarah was in tears while Lisa pleaded for everyone to stop. It was a whirlwind of emotions, and just when it seemed like it would spiral out of control, Academy security intervened, swiftly separating us. The manager arrived, demanding an explanation. Between sobs, Sarah bravely recounted the betrayal, the evidence displayed for all to see. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air, and I could see Tom's face drain of color as his reputation shattered before everyone. Lisa, too, felt the sting of humiliation. Her frantic pleas for forgiveness went unheard, drowned out by the gasps and whispers of disbelief from our audience. In that moment, as the truth hung heavy in the room, I realized that justice had been served, not just for us, but for everyone who had ever been betrayed. "It's over, Tom!" Sarah screamed, her voice filled with raw pain, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm going to get a lawyer. Our marriage is done." In that moment, I felt the weight of our world crashing down. Tom and Lisa had been expelled from the academy, their reputations shattered, their lives in ruins. As Sarah and I walked away from the chaos, a whirlwind of emotions stirred within me, relief mingled with a deep sadness that clung to my heart like a shadow. The next day, as I packed my bags in the small apartment we once shared, the air was thick with tension. Suddenly, the sound of Lisa's sobs pierced through the silence. I could hear her pleading from the other room, desperation echoing in her voice. "Oliver, please listen to me," Lisa cried, her voice cracking as she knelt before me, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "I never meant to hurt you. I was confused, lost. I need you back." I paused, looking down at the woman I once thought I loved with all my heart. The pain in her eyes was undeniable, but the betrayal ran deeper than I ever thought possible. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the surge of emotions. "Lisa, you destroyed everything," I said quietly, my voice trembling with hurt. "I saw you with him. In our house. On our couch. How do you expect me to forgive that?" Lisa grabbed my hands, her grip desperate. "I made a terrible mistake, Oliver. But we can get through this. We can rebuild. I'll do anything to make it right." I yanked my hands away, feeling a tide of sadness mixed with anger. "You should have thought of that sooner," I shot back, my voice hardening. "I can't stay. I can't trust you again." With those words, I zipped up my suitcase and turned toward the door. Lisa collapsed to the floor, a heart-wrenching scream escaping her lips. "Oliver, please don't leave me," she cried, her voice filled with agony. I hesitated, glancing back at her broken form. The sight of her defeated and desperate tugged at my heartstrings, but I knew I had to be strong. I had to move on. "I'm so sorry, Lisa," I said, my voice cracking. "But that's over. That was my story." As I stepped out into the world beyond our shattered relationship, I felt an unfamiliar sense of freedom mixed with pain. I couldn't shake the memories of our time together, the laughter and love that had once filled our home. But I also couldn't ignore the betrayal that lingered like a dark cloud over my heart. I found out my ex-wife had cheated on me with a guy she met at the gym, and the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. What would you have done in my place? Would you confront them in front of everyone, seeking some twisted sense of closure? Or would you forgive your wife, hoping to rebuild what was broken? I didn't forgive. I couldn't. Trust, once shattered, was impossible to piece back together. The wound was too deep, and the scars too raw. I had to let go, even if it meant leaving behind a part of myself I once cherished. The journey ahead would be painful, but it was a journey I had to take alone.